Okay, welcome. We're going to look in this video at the number system. So what we're talking about is, let's say we're playing in a key, you're playing with a bunch of guys, and the guy leading, he just says, oh, let's go to the 6, let's go to the 3 now, and then to the 4. So this is all about understanding what those numbers mean, where they come from, and that sort of thing. So where we're going to start is with the major scale. If you don't already know the major scale, we're going to cover it real quick, but I've got some lessons on it that you can check out, as well as the minor scale. I'm not going to cover that scale in this video because we don't really need to. You'll understand why a little bit later. Cool, but first of all, let's just have a quick rundown of the major scale. So I'm just going to start at my 5th fret on my E string on an A. I'm going to come up a tone to my B, then I'm going to play a C sharp, which is actually another tone apart if I was to play it up there, but I'm going to play it down here, C sharp. Straight after that the D, up a tone to my E, okay, and then to an F sharp, but I'm going to play that on my D string, and then up a tone to a G sharp, back to an A. Cool. So all we're going to do is we're going to number those 1 to 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Cool. So the only difference between a major scale and a minor scale is that a minor scale has a flat 3, a flat 6, and a flat 7. So for what we're doing today, we don't actually need to worry about the 6 or the 7 being flat in a minor scale, just that the 3's flat, and that's only going to be when we look at chords a little bit later on in this video. Okay, so to start with, there's your numbers. So let's say, and by the way, that works anywhere on the neck. All you're doing is changing the root note, so that happened to be E. If I wanted C sharp, cool, you just move the pattern around, which is the cool thing about guitars and bass. You kind of have all these patterns that you can use and just move them around the place. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at some different places to play those numbers, and the reason for that is, let's say you had the progression 1, 6, 4, 5. So, and let's say my 1 was my D. I don't really want to go 1, 6, 4, 5, okay? Because I want that to be a low note, right? So I want to know where I can play it as a low note. So we're going to look at two different things. We're going to look at having our root note on our low E string, or having it on our A string. So you can find basically any note in a comfortable position on one of those two strings. Fair enough, like I could name any note and you could go to it. If you're not at that stage yet, maybe work that stuff out before this number stuff, maybe go back and do some more of the lesson videos. But I'm assuming that you're at that kind of place where you could comfortably find any note you want on one of those two strings. Okay, so I'll cover this at the end also on the 5 string for the low B, but the patterns are exactly the same. You just make these your 2 lowest strings, so when we're starting on A, that would be like your E, and when we're playing on the E, that would be like your B. Cool? If you're on 4 string, forget all that, stick with this for now. Cool, so let's say my 1 is an A, and I'm going to play that at 5th fret on my E string. Okay, so we'll go through them randomly instead of systematically, just looking at where the patterns fall. So let's say my next note is going to be my 4. So my 4 in this case is straight underneath. Cool. If it was my 3, that's a semitone back. So just a little side note, the spacings on the scale are tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. So the only spaces that are semitone apart are between 3 and 4 and 6 and 7. 7 and 8, sorry. 8 being octave, 1 and 8. Cool. So here's my 1, here's my 4, that puts my 5 here. So you might often, as a bass player, see the 1, 5, 8 pattern. Side note again. Cool, so 5, so that puts my 6 up here. But if I look at that note, that's an F sharp, right? So I can actually play that back here at my 2nd fret on my E string. Okay, so remember, if that's my 1, that's my 1, so here's my 7, it's a semitone before it. So if I want my 7, I just drop a semitone. So normally what you're going to see is a 5/7 chord in which we play the 7. For example, in this key, that would be D, what would that be in this? So 5, that would be an E over G sharp in the key of A. Cool? So it's a 5 chord, but with a 7 in the bass. So we're playing the 7, and normally it's leading back to the 1. I say normally, but a whole lot of the time that's going to be different. But anyway, you're going to want to play it low, because we're bass players. We don't want to play up here all the time. Cool? So if that's my 7, then a tone back from that is going to be my 6. So if I look at my 1 to my 6, then I just skip 2 frets as I come back. So let's say my pattern was 6, 4, 1, 5. Sound familiar? It's like a whole lot of songs. Yeah. Cool. So that's with, and then of course 1, 2, we can either play 3 here, or we can actually just come up another tone here. Cool, so 1, 2, 3. So if I was using this, I'd go 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I could also play my 5 as an open E. That's where it's handy to actually know your notes as well. So you can, if you're playing 1 and 5, you know your 5's an E. Cool. So let's say now we're going to be on our A string for our root note. Let's find a different position just for fun. Let's come to our C. Cool. So now, here's another little trick. In terms of patterns, 1 and 4 are opposite to each other. So if you went round, like say the circle of fifths, you go round clockwise in 5th intervals. If you went round backwards, it's actually 4th intervals. Okay, so same thing's going to happen here. So, well, let's come back here for a second. I'll use D actually just to make it simpler. So that was 1 to 5. Okay, but now if this is my 1, that's 1 to 4. Okay, so same here, 1 to 5. But if that was my 1, he was my 1, 1 to 4. Okay, that's a handy little pattern to remember. Okay, so let's say we're on D, there's our 1, 5, that's our 4 back there, remember? It's also just a tone back from our 5, tone up from our 5 is our 6. Our 7, I'd normally still play leading up to our 1, or I can come up another fret here, another tone, sorry. So what does that leave us? That leaves 1, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 5, 4. Our 3 is a semitone back from our 4. Cool. And our 2, just up a tone. Same thing again, I can go, oh well that's an E, so I can actually use my low E. And it just depends on what phrasing you want, that sort of thing, how you want it to sound. Yeah, I like the always playing stuff low thing, because I think as bass players that's the space we're meant to fill, but at the same time sometimes a progression sounds a certain way and you need to place notes in the right octaves to get it sounding the way it's meant to sound, if that makes sense. Cool, so that is on the 4 string. Okay, I'll look at the 5 string right at the end. I'll just cover a little bit more here first. So that's all good and well when we know what key we're in, okay, but then we need to work out what key we're in, right? So how do you work out what key a song is in? So the trick to that is, we'll start with saying you've got a chord sheet, right? So the trick is to look for the major chords. So if we take those numbers, 1 to 8, okay, 1 and 8 are the same, so forget that, just 1. Okay, that's our 1, that's a major. 4 is a major, and 5 is major. 1, 4, 5, all major chords. Everything else is a minor, except for the 7, which is a diminished. Okay, so the 7 on its own is a diminished chord. You're not going to hear it a whole lot because it's a funny sounding chord, but what you will get is that 5 over 7. Okay, so in this case it's an E over G sharp, that's your D over F sharp if you're in G, and so on and so forth, A over C sharp, and D or whatever chord that key that is. Cool, but you see those ones. Normally it's going to be a 5 over 7. Okay, sometimes it's going to be different, because normally what we're doing is say A over C sharp, you're playing the C sharp, the 3 of the chord, as the low note. Normally that's what's happening, but sometimes that's different. Sometimes it's a 6 or 4 or something different. Don't overthink that too much just now, that's not important. Cool, so if 1, 4 and 5 are major, that means if we were in the key of A, we would have A major, our 2 would be B minor, our 3 would be C sharp minor, our D, our 4 is D major, our 5 is E major, our 6 is F sharp minor, okay, our 7 would be G sharp diminished, or if it was over a 5 it would be E over G sharp, and then we're back to our 1, which is A major, of course. So the trick is to look for your major chords on your chord sheet. If you can see 3 major chords, it's going to be real easy to find your key. Just by, I always just think of the guitar neck. You think of those scale patterns, you think of where those things are. So if I saw E major, B major and A major, straight away I know that that's the key of E, because it's 1, 4 and 5. Okay? Which you get used to doing that in your head. But so let's do a different one. Let's say I had G major, D major, A major. Okay? So one of those major chords has to be our key that we're in. Talking in simple terms, don't get in the comments and be all, you know, oh, but what if it's naturalized and blah, 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 blah. Let's not overcomplicate things right now. Cool? So, G, if it was in the key of G, then A would be our 2, which would be a minor chord, but it's not, it's a major chord, so it can't be in G. We can't be in A, because then we wouldn't have a G in this key. Okay? It's got to be in D. 1, 4 and 5. Cool? So little ways to work that out. Now let's say you don't have a chord sheet, you've worked something out by ear. So you've found the root notes to each chord. Let's say you found G, D, A, and E. So you know those are your root notes to each chord. Okay, but now you need to work out whether the chords are major or minor, so we can tell what key it's in, right? So we're going to have a quick lesson on bass chords. So bass chords, basically we just play a part of the guitar chord. So like a bar chord. Okay, but I don't want to play all those notes because it's kind of muddy. There's too much going on. So I'm just going to pull a couple out. That might be 1 and 3. It might be 1 and 5. A lot of the time, I'm going to use 1 and 3 because it sounds cool. Simply. So, quick lesson on chords. So if I'm playing a G here, and then if I take the same fret on my G string there, play those two, that's a minor chord. If I bring this one up a fret and play those two, major. So when we play a chord, it's made up of 1, 3 and 5. Remembering the minor scale has a flat 3, a flat 6 and a flat 7, but we're only playing 1, 3 and 5, so we just need a flat 3. So if we take G major, flatten the 3, becomes minor. Cool, quick chord lesson. So now we're just going to play through all those, G, D, A, E. I'm just going to play them all on my low E string, and I'm going to play them all as major chords to start with. Okay, and then what you want to do, obviously you're going to be playing along with a track or something like that. You want to work out which one doesn't sound right, okay? Because one of them is not going to sound right because it's got a note in it that is wrong. And then you want to change that one. If you don't hear it straight away, try changing each one. Try starting on G minor. And so on and so forth, and go through them. You'll find in that one that actually the E should be an E minor, okay, and that puts you into the key of D. So it's actually the same key, 1, 4 and 5, but now we've just added a 2. Cool. And with that you can work out a key by ear. But generally start out doing it by looking at the chord sheet and just going, well, which ones are minors, which ones are majors, and working it out from there. Cool, so now a quick look at the 5 string, and we all cringe while I pull this out. Okay, so now with the 5 string. So remember I said the patterns stay the same. If you're on a 4 string, thank you very much. You can stop watching and take what you know away with you. If you are on a 5 string and you want a little just refresh with the extra string, let's do that. Cool, so same patterns are going to apply. So on my B string, let's just start from an E. So my 4 straight underneath, so remember the scale's still the same. That's an E major scale. So straight underneath is my 4, that's my 5, 1 and 5. 6 I can play up here, or again I can come back 2 frets from my 1. Really, that's going back 3 frets, really, isn't it? Hey. Skipping out 2 frets, whichever way you want to look at it. My 7 right before my 1, and then 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3. Cool. And then same again if I'm on my E string. So let's look somewhere else on the neck just for fun. Let's come up to a C sharp. Okay, so then my 5 is straight above, opposite to the 4, and again opposite, 1, 4, 1, 5. Okay, and then my 6 is going to be up here, the tone up from my 5. So 1, 5, 4, 6. My 7, again right before my 1. And then I can have 1, 2, 3, I can have 1, 2, 3. I can play my 3 just before my 4. And I can even play my 2 back there if I want to. Okay, And I think that is all of them. Hey, patterns are still the same. That's the great thing about being a bass player, is the patterns always stay the same. Hey, not like keyboards, and they kind of, yeah, complicated. Yeah, but I hope this has helped. So yeah, explaining numbers. Feel free to ask any questions. I'll try and get on them when I see them come up. And yeah, hit like if it helped.